And here we go.
We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roger, planet.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside FD off. Bring in FD off. Off. It's orange!
45! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
The methane would be igniting the flare, correct?
Yikes. You dead? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Well, I can't believe it's not a Starlink for, well, I guess we had Axiom 4 the other day, but for the first time in a little while for a non-crewed launch, we are live from the Kennedy Space Center for an LC-39A launch, everybody. How you all doing? It's looking like a very sunny Floridian afternoon. We are just under 1 hour to go until the launch of MTG-S1 on board, which it has Sentinel-4A. We'll get into those specifics in a few moments' time, but for the opening of the stream, my name is Ryan Caton. Thank you very much for joining us on NSF's live coverage of this launch. Joining me, someone that knows quite a lot about Falcon 9, and someone you certainly would have heard of before. Alex, how are you doing this wonderful afternoon in Florida?
Well, I'm doing fantastic, and it looks like a beautiful afternoon there in Florida. But you know how afternoons go in Florida; they can change rather quickly. So we'll see.
And someone who is actually experiencing this Floridian afternoon right now is Max Evans at the press site for us. How are you doing, Max?
Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, indeed, it is a bit of a scorcher out here this afternoon, but for the time being, we have plenty of blue sky and just some white puffy clouds hanging around, hoping to get Falcon 9 off at the opening of the window.
Fingers crossed indeed. The forecast that was released by the 45th Weather Squadron wasn't looking incredibly favourable, but we'll get onto that in a minute. In terms of housekeeping though, of course, if this is your first time joining us, first of all, welcome. Second of all, if you were previously unaware, tag us in chat at NASA Spaceflight with all of your questions, all of your comments. That brings it into a nice queue for us to go through. We'll be answering your questions as we work through the next hour or so. Fingers crossed this launch sticks on target for now in 55 minutes time. But to kick off the stream, Alex, this booster, B1085, has done, it's not the most used booster in the fleet, but it's certainly got a few important missions under its belt.
Yeah, you could say that this is sort of a rookie, right? Compared to some of the boosters that we've seen recently, and another one that we may see later today as well. Yeah, it's only done 8 missions in the past. This will be its 9th mission. And as you can see there, one notable mission was the Crew 9 mission, launching that sort of rescue mission, if you will, for Sonny and Butch, right? Then we've got, for example, GPS-3 SV07 as well, launching a rapid response trailblazer mission that was there, and also a double lunar lander mission with a Hakuto R mission 2 and Blue Ghost mission 1, both on the same flight, and also Fram 2. I mean, this booster has had really important missions under its belt, and most recently the SXM-10 mission, which you might remember it happened pretty much like 24 and a half days ago. So yeah, quite a quick turnaround there as well on this booster since its last launch.
Yeah, I was just looking at that and I was thinking, I swear I put Sirius XM in one This Week in Spaceflight edit like yesterday, but apparently it wasn't yesterday. Apparently it was a little bit longer ago than that. But yeah, impressive Falcon 9 turnaround cadence as we are becoming ever more accustomed to nowadays. Just under 54 minutes to go until the current targeted time for this mission to launch, and Well, Max, let's talk about that weather forecast that came out, because the 45th Weather Squadron predicting an 80% chance of violating the weather constraints today, 90% if there's a 24-hour turnaround, a 24-hour delay rather, but everything looks sunny on our feeds. What's that all about?
Yeah, what we're seeing with the Mark 1 eyeballs and what we're reading on the forecast aren't exactly lining up one-to-one right now, and it's kind of confusing, but we're just going to roll with it because the weather does here at least look favorable for now. As you were saying earlier, there's only a 20% chance of favorable conditions at the opening of the window, and I believe that that retains through the 90-minute window as it continues. But yeah, lots of blue skies over us right now. But the primary rules that they are keeping an eye on are both the cumulus cloud rule and the anvil cloud rule, as well as the surface electric fields. In other words, static electricity either on the ground or around the complex. You don't want a rocket should not be creating its own lightning, because that could cause a lot of problems for a lot of people on the ground, and occasionally sometimes for people in the rocket, as we saw from Apollo 12. But yeah, at least for now, the weather is looking to hold, and it should be staying this way for at least the next 50 minutes or so. But as you were saying earlier, Ryan, and as we have mentioned plenty of times before, just how quickly the weather can change around here in Florida, especially in the summer and right along the coast here as well. Keeping a nice close eye on the radar as it comes, but for the moment things are looking, dare I say, good? Maybe? I don't want to jinx anything, but everything looks okay for now.
Mick Ronald in chat is calling me out, asking who is producing. I, of course, forgot to shout out Jay Keegan in the background, who's pushing the buttons today, getting this stream online for all of your viewing pleasure. So thank you very much for reminding me, Mick. It is greatly appreciated. Okay. I've already apologized, okay? I've already apologized. And kicking things off, Wyoming Coast at tips.nasaspaceflight.com saying, hear me out, SpaceX branded butter from the free-range McGregor live cows that's called I Can't Believe It's Not Starlink. Maybe there's a business model in there somewhere. Maybe we need some something like that on the NSF store. I will send that Adrian's way. Either way, let's have a look through here. First of all, we have a question here from Supersonic Retro Propulsion. Great name as always. Talking about turnaround times, is there a minimum time between launches from neighbouring pads from a range safety perspective? And Alex, as far as I know, each launch provider kind of has to book the time from the range. So there's, the correct allocation of resources to each specific launch. Am I correct or am I not correct?
Yeah, and it gets easier. The least resources that a launch takes, the better. And Falcon 9 is very good at being, at launching without using as many resources as other rockets, namely because it has the automated flight termination system, which means there's no person on the ground with a big red button trying to terminate the flight, right? It's the rocket itself. It has that automated flight termination system. So it's not just the person itself, but also there's like a group of people that support that as well, with the tracking and all of the data and everything that needs to come through, and multiple different assets that are needed as well when you have a manual flight termination system, right? Falcon 9 does not have that, and it also needs to be recalibrated after a launch for the next launch, and it needs to be retested for the next launch. So there's always some kind of minimum turnaround when you have such type of launches. So for example, when there's an Atlas 5 and a Falcon 9, the switch from Atlas 5 to Falcon 9 is usually quicker than the one from Falcon 9 to an Atlas 5 because of this. And so, but we've seen some of these like maybe 8 hours apart, even with a manual flight termination system rocket like Atlas, or I think there was even at some point Terran 1, for example, when it launched, there was also like a Falcon 9 maybe the day before, a few hours as well. So that's some of the things as well that help towards that. if somebody's asking what is the record right now, from the Cape between the same type of rockets, or at least same family of rockets, there was a Falcon Heavy in 2023, at the end of 2023, and then a Falcon 9 right after, like under 3 hours, essentially, from that. I have it here. It will be between the USSF 52 mission and Starlink 636. That was 2 hours and 54 minutes. So very quickly.
Yes, indeed. And speaking of Falcon Heavy, Sard is asking, will Falcon Heavy ever get to the 25th launch? Now, Max, it's not a rocket we see fly incredibly often compared to Falcon 9 at least. So far, we've seen a few dotted ever since it kind of returned to service in 2022. What do you think? Do we think Falcon Heavy will ever reach 25 flights, considering Starship is, well, it's certainly not slowing down?
Yeah, and it's also kind of a sad thought as well to think that, or to even question the fact that Falcon Heavy might now reach that milestone, considering Falcon 9 can reach that in like a month and a half. It takes like no time at all. I sure hope so, and I think at the moment, a lot of the primary customers for Falcon Heavy have been the Space Force or DoD or Department of Defense, and only a smattering of commercial payloads. And then also NASA has paired up with them a few times as well. Yeah, we see it fly maybe on average 2 or 3 times a year. I think this year we would be lucky to see one towards December. It's kind of a sad thought, but I sure hope it does. But as you were saying earlier, with the Starship launch cadence hopefully picking up soon, and with that hopefully coming online at least commercially in the next maybe 1.5 to 2 years. Its future is a bit unknown. I think that's at least fair to say.
Yeah. And Alex, there's this is an interesting point to discuss, because there's a big number being thrown around with today's mission. However you want to describe or define what a mission is, it might change when you want to place the big number on a specific launch. So for those of you not aware, on one definition, this launch is going to be Falcon 9's 500th mission. However, based on some other definitions, it's 499th or 498th. I'm sure there'll be many more definitions than that. So Alex, could you just try and explain how, why, is this the 500th Falcon 9 launch, or is it not?
Yeah, so thanks to multiple different missions, I guess, there's some asterisks, I guess, whenever we talk about, reaching a round number like this. So MO6 was supposed to be at one point a mission that would have launched, but it didn't, because it exploded before it was able to launch. That would have been Falcon 9's 29th launch, but it wasn't. The 29th launch ended up being the next one, because, again, that one exploded on the pad. But it was a mission. So that will have been the 29th mission of Falcon 9. So because of that, this one, despite being Falcon 9's 499th launch, you have to count that other mission, and then this becomes the 500th mission. And then there's another mission, which was in-flight abort test. And, well, that's also why Next Space Flight shows their 500th mission. The wording is correct there. It's the 500th mission. That is correct. So when we say, oh, this is not the 500th launch, right? I've seen some people confused about that, and it's like, yeah, no, it's totally correct, because it's mission, right? This is the 499th launch, but also if you only count orbital launches because of in-flight abort test, then this becomes the 498th orbital launch, as you can see there. So yeah, it makes statistics like this very nice, right? Not, but yeah, it makes fun, and hey, it's a talking point at the very least.
A talking point indeed. I'm sure everyone in the comments and in chat will be bickering either way as well, deciding whichever way they want to swing on that one. But even if you don't want to define today's mission as the 500th mission, then there's good news, because the next one, which will be in not too long, considering it's Falcon 9, will be the 500th mission. So no matter how you want to define it, we'll be reaching that milestone in various forms
Wait.
either way very soon.
9 hours or so for the Starlink launch later today.
Exactly. Max, speaking of Falcon Heavy, as we were just a few moments ago, Severin Fisher, one of those names we see very often in chat, is asking, do you think we'll ever see a successful Falcon Heavy center core recovery? That's something that SpaceX has been... But they haven't tried it for a little while now. They've given it a few goes. They've landed one successfully once, but then it kind of fell over on the way back to Port Canaveral. What do you think? Are we ever going to see a center core make it home successfully?
Yeah, obviously, center core recovery has proven to be a lot trickier of a beast than side core recovery or just standard Falcon 9 booster recovery out in the Atlantic. Partially because the booster is traveling so much farther and so much faster, and the drone ship has to be stationed out that much farther. So the accuracy has to be even more precise compared to what they normally do. They attempted center core landing and recovery for the first 3 missions, and they have not attempted since. It has proven to be a rather tricky beast, but personnel at SpaceX, I think it was John Edwards as well, I can't remember exactly when, it was sometime in the last year, has also said that they want to chase after center core recovery again, because those Falcon Heavy center cores are quite valuable and also quite expensive compared to what the normal Falcon 9 or Falcon Heavy side cores cost, in that they are heavier, they have a lot more hardware on board to support the extra loads that it undergoes during launch compared to the side cores. So maybe at some point soon, probably... Oh man, I think obviously in order to attempt a center core recovery, they have to be flying a Falcon Heavy at all to even be chasing that. And we haven't seen Falcon Heavy fly in a while, and we might not see it until December again at the earliest. But tough to say. I know they want to, but I guess we will have to wait and see. If I had to put a guess on it, I probably have to say no, to be honest.
I'm going to disagree, and I'm going to say yes, based on a technicality, and that's because our John Edwards over at SpaceX did a little tweet a couple of months ago at this point, revealing what they were going to be doing with booster B1091. And even though B1091 is technically a Falcon Heavy center core, he revealed that SpaceX intends to fly it in a single stick configuration.
Well,
so, I'm going to say
the rules.
I'm not bending the rules, because it's a Falcon Heavy. Like, a Falcon Heavy center core is a distinctly different booster design to a Falcon 9 booster. So, by that, I think that means that Falcon Heavy will have a single stick and a 3-stick configuration, and therefore a Falcon Heavy center core will be successfully recovered because it'll be in a Falcon 9 flight profile, as in it'll just be a single stick booster that will presumably fly a few Starlink missions and land on the drone ship a few times successfully. I think that is probably the thing to assume at this point, considering the success street that Falcon 9 is on right now. I've probably just jinxed it. Stick around 40 minutes time, we'll find out or not. But yeah, I'm going to disagree with you on that technicality.
God, I hate technicalities. But,
it's funny because...
But answer this, Ryan. Do you think that... Okay. Answer it like this. Do you think they will ever recover a Falcon Heavy center core in a Falcon Heavy configuration?
I'll be honest. I'm kind of leaning a little bit pessimistic on that one, just because the Falcon Heavy missions with triple core recovery all now have seemed to be reassigned to a Falcon 9 because the Falcon 9 performance has been proven to be good enough. So it's like, why fly 3 cores when you only need to fly 1, right? If there is that niche case where that SpaceX has to fly a triple core Falcon Heavy and recover all 3 cores, then I think they might be able to nail it down, because they've landed on the drone ship. They just lost the booster after the fact, after the landing, right? So I think SpaceX has gone through like literally years of advancements with booster recovery since that point. So I think they might have it in the bag. But again, the question is, will they ever actually need to fly a Falcon Heavy mission where they recover all 3 boosters? And that, at the moment, is seeming less and less likely by the day, considering how many Starlink satellites they can now squeeze. I mean, Falcon 9 can now fly like just shy of 30 Starlink's V2 mini satellites, and these are big, heavy satellites. So, yeah, I'm a bit pessimistic on that one, I have to say. Let's have a look through the chat here. And speaking of the launch cadence of Falcon 9, Zapfan asking if it'll ever beat the Soyuz and other R7 derivatives in terms of the number of launches. 500 versus, is it like 850 odd, I think, for the R7 derived vehicle? Or I can't remember.
I think it's over
1,000
2,000,
now?
Ryan.
2,000?
Yeah, I think it's over 2,000.
Where's that 800 number coming from? Is that like the Soyuz U or something?
Yeah, from one of the configurations of those, yeah.
Okay, so that's where I got that 800 number. But 2,000?
You may
I think-
remember...
Oh, that's a difficult one.
Mr. Twist Editor, you may remember we actually featured that when they launched the 2000th one, because Roscosmos put a sticker on it indicating that it was the 2000th when they did that.
Well, now you say it, I
We
remember it,
explained
but I couldn't remember it. I just had 800 in my head for some reason from that one Soyuz configuration.
It does
But yeah,
include though a few
2000?
suborbital launches, but we also count one suborbital launch from here, so I guess it's fair.
2,000 is a lot of launches, and considering
Yeah.
this would be 499, that's difficult. I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not sure, because I feel like maybe when Falcon 9 kind of reaches the 1000s territory, that's when Starship is going to be kind of operational and taking over the game a little bit. But I'm not 100% sure on that one, to be completely honest, because SpaceX is still, at this point, increasing the Falcon 9 cadence, which is bonkers to think about. So
We'll see. We'll see how the timeline
Yeah.
for that goes.
we'll just have to wait. Especially when Starship, just the cadence. You can't even imagine it. You cannot even imagine it right now. Jennifer has a brilliant question here, asking, when launching from Launch Complex 39A, how much time does SpaceX lose working on the Starship pad? So, Alex, how much of this actual launch time do people have to be evacuated from the pad area? Because, of course, we can see there over on the right side of the screen, that's the Starship pad being worked on at Complex 39A right now, and they're digging the flame trench, they're working on the chopsticks, they're working on the GSE. Can they work up until a few minutes before launch, or do they have to, be out of the area hours beforehand?
Yeah, so around T-4 hours, that's when they have to leave. And we, in fact, saw them working on that pad pretty much until that point. Once that launch happens, they may be back a couple of hours after launch. So they only will be losing maybe a full shift, maybe 8 hours, 12 hours tops. I don't think it's going to be more than that. But obviously, you don't want to be there, not even at this time, because in 20 seconds, if they're still on track, they should be undergoing propellant load on Falcon 9. And you don't want to be near close any of that when it happens.
And speaking of when things will happen, fingers crossed we'll see some propellant loading beginning shortly, because we have just crossed T-minus 35 minutes to go, and that is when the rocket propellant 1, that very refined kerosene and the liquid oxygen, begins loading on the first stage, and the kerosene begins loading on the second stage. So fingers crossed that's happening around now, but we won't actually know until we either get visual confirmation or confirmation from SpaceX, because range helicopter, unfortunately SpaceX doesn't really confirm these things beforehand anymore, but we'll figure it out in a few minutes nonetheless. Alex, do you want to run through the rest of the timeline after this point here?
Yeah, so as you can see there, we are essentially just waiting for that confirmation that both stages are being loaded with kerosene, and that liquid oxygen load on the first stage will be our clue. Hopefully in about 2 minutes from now, we'll start seeing that frost picking up on the exterior of the liquid oxygen tank. As we go down the count, we, usually around T-minus 21, 20 minutes or so, that's when they wrap up the RP1 load on the second stage and they prepare for the liquid oxygen load on the second stage, which should be at the T-minus 16-minute mark. In order to get to that point, as you can see there, they do that LOX chill down. We see the T-minus 20-minute and 20-second vent. It's a little bit earlier here at 39.8, just a few seconds earlier than that. Probably because of the different pad design and whatnot. But that's sort of where we should be headed to if that propellant load is indeed starting or is already underway, I should say. Again, that will be something that, in a couple of minutes, we should be able to gather visually from that frost on the tank.
As you can see, we have one of our robots super zoomed in here. So luckily, with the Launch Complex 39A missions, we are able to get a little bit closer than we are for the standard Starlink missions from Slick 40, because of course we watch those as well from the KSC press site, which is a little bit further away from Slick 40 than some of the other media locations that may be open for customer missions, say. Yeah, one of those benefits of 39A that we get here. I do have to say, Max, the sky still looking pretty blue, considering we're about half an hour away from launch, potentially.
It is, and it is a little bit breezier now than it was maybe a half hour ago when we began the stream. That being said, there is still plenty of blue sky around, but I have still been keeping an eye on the radar, and based on the wind direction, there is also some storms beginning to brew up just south of the Space Coast around the Melbourne area, and because of where the wind is blowing, all that is now coming this way. SpaceX may be waiting for that if they haven't already begun prop load. Actually, do I see the most faint line of frost on the bottom of the LOX tank there, guys? Or am I crazy?
We also have a little bit of heat haze to play with, so it's not going to be 100% obvious straight away, but we'll keep an eye on it for a couple more minutes and see if it rises any more. But it is starting to look a little wispy, potentially. But again, confirmation bias. I want to see some frost. I don't want to imagine some frost. So we'll just give it a few, potentially a little bit more wispy there.
Yeah, I'm seeing some vapors already there.
Yep,
I think
that is definitely frost.
Yeah, that will be confirmation.
So yeah, that pretty much confirms that SpaceX is going for this launch attempt in 31 minutes time, and because of the fueling process with Falcon 9 and those chilled propellants that they use in order to cram as much prop as possible into the booster and into that second stage, well, they can only go for that one attempt. If they can't make that attempt, we aren't launching today. Let's put it that way. I refuse to use the S words that Adrian uses so frivolously on live streams all the time. So yeah, that's one of those things we'll be keeping an eye on. But for now, it looks as if prop load has started on the first stage. Exciting times ahead. Fingers crossed we'll get a launch in just over half an hour's time. I'm still pretty mesmerized by these blue skies, Max. It looks so pretty. I know I'm being duped into this because Florida weather will do Florida weather things, and I don't want to get excited. But these blue skies are very, very pretty right now, and I have to say, for probably the first time in a long time, the tourism brochures that Chris always mentions, it looks like the brochures.
I don't know about first time in a long time, but it is certainly a lot less common in the summer when we have storms coming around more commonly. But yeah, the blue skies are, I don't want to use the word misleading, because the weather is genuinely nice right now, but there is some foul weather, I guess, starting to develop south of Cape Canaveral, and that is coming this way. But obviously, SpaceX deems or believes, I should say, that there is a window to complete prop load and get Falcon 9 off the ground before any of that weather begins to inflict or interfere with operations here, both at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station and the Kennedy Space Center alike. So, looking good for now, and hopefully it can stay that way for the next 29 minutes or so.
And as we cross approach T-minus 29 minutes here. Of course, we want to welcome everybody joining us today on YouTube, on X, and of course on the Popular Science channel. You're watching NSF's live coverage of the MTG-S1 / Sentinel-4A launch. MTG-S1 is the satellite, Sentinel-4A is a payload on said satellite, and we are, fingers crossed, looking forward to a launch in 29 minutes' time on board this Falcon 9 from Launch Complex 39A in Florida. Blue skies. Fingers crossed the winds stay calm as well. And the forecast was completely incorrect, but that's one of those things we'll just have to keep an eye on. And we have an interesting question here from Cooper. And Alex, I'll throw this one to you because you mentioned earlier the Crew 9 mission, that quote-unquote rescue mission to the International Space Station. That was the first and so far only crewed Dragon launch from Space Launch Complex 40. Do you think that was an anomaly? Do you think we'll see another one from there? You know, why do you think we haven't seen more? I mean, SpaceX has done plenty of crewed missions since. Why do you think we haven't seen any more?
Well, if you look at what happened with Axiom 4, that can give you a clue, right? Slick 40 is sort of the workhorse launch pad, if you will, right? It's the one that it's built to be quickly turn around and launch very frequently from there and have all of the operations go very, swiftly and quick and everything. Whereas Launch Complex 39A, if you put all of the crew launches from there by default, right, then and you just use Slick 40 in a conflicting situation like we had with Crew 9, right, where you had Falcon Heavy being readied at 39A for Europa Clipper, and it was a very constraining window with a planetary window, essentially, right? You don't want that sort of thing to be conflicting with a crew mission, so you put the crew mission at Slick 40. But in nominal situations, you want that crew mission to happen from 39A so that your workhorse launchpad, Slick 40, can quickly launch other missions. And again, as I was saying, Axiom 4 may be the best example of that because your crew mission could just stay on the ground for several weeks because the ISS has a leak, right? And they want to investigate it and things like that. And so because of that, they've been able to launch rather quickly from Pad 40. We actually talked about this in the last couple of launches from there that, they did a really quick turnaround, even breaking their own record turnaround time for that pad. And that helps them to keep the cadence, right? They have many Starlink missions to launch. They have also other customer missions as well that they have launched in between, like this one from 39A. If Axiom 4 had been staying on this pad for a few more days, probably this mission would have happened from pad 40, for example, right? And so that's one of the key benefits for them to have that flexibility. Yeah.
And speaking of flexibility, this is something that has been kind of in the news a little bit lately. Of course, we've all been, I wouldn't say interested in, but certainly curious about the topic of NASA's budget going into the future. One of the things that has been discussed is the future of Artemis and Orion. Max, do you think we may see, or could theoretically put Orion on top of a Falcon Heavy, or do you think that just wouldn't work out?
Yeah. Well, that would require extensive changes to LC-39A's tower and crew access arm as well, in order to accommodate for the extra height needed. We presume for the longer tanks to get Orion up to where it needs to go, because Orion is not a light spacecraft. I can't remember the exact weight off the top of my head, but it is one of the heavier spacecraft to fly, at least in this current day and age. Obviously, NASA opted to fly Orion on a Delta IV Heavy many years ago. I think it was about 11 years ago now, for Exploration Flight Test 1, or EFT-1, which was the first ever flight of an Orion capsule. It's essentially to test out its heat shield and to demonstrate its onboard systems. But there was no crew on board with that one, and there was never any intention. So any modifications to the actual support structure were not required to support crew. I can't really see it being likely, unfortunately. That is just asking a lot of Falcon Heavy. If anything, it seems a bit more appropriate to throw it on perhaps Vulcan or maybe even New Glenn at some point with some variant of New Glenn. I'm not sure that these are all just complete, fantasies, I guess, at least for now, but time will tell.
I have to say that one Orion flight test on the Delta IV Heavy always was slightly baffling. Dare I say, it was slightly... in retrospect, I feel like it was a bit like the Ares 1X flight test, where maybe it was, a little bit more for show than anything else. Because if I'm not mistaken, after they did that re-entry test, didn't they redesign the entire Orion heat shield? Or am I very incorrect on that one?
Yeah, the Orion heat shield has not necessarily been a stagnant point of design with Orion, especially after the results from Artemis 1's reentry. The heat shield does need a bit more work, although they have deemed it appropriate to fly as is for Artemis 2. But NASA is working on additional solutions as to how much of the heat shield is ablating to accommodate for their margins of safety, which NASA takes, of course, very seriously, especially when it comes to crew. But yeah, Orion has been... Is it appropriate to say Orion has been a little bit troublesome, perhaps?
It's had its moments. Let's put it that way. It's had its moments.
It certainly has.
One item that we should probably discuss, because we've said it so many times, WG Mojo asking, what is MTG-S1 / Sentinel-4A? Now, I'll kick this off, because my understanding is that MTG-S1 is a satellite being launched, and then Sentinel-4 is a European instrument that is being launched as a payload on the satellite, and then the actual satellite itself will be operated by EUMETSAT, but it was manufactured by OHB. Alex, I'm not sure if you have anything to add on to that. It's a little bit confusing, isn't it?
I can decode what MTG-S1 means, which is Meteosat Third Generation Sounder. That's essentially what that means. It's part of the Meteosat constellation of weather satellites from Europe. And that's one of the things that they are working on to renovate and get better of these weather satellites up there. Lots of new instruments, including the Sentinel-4A instrument as well from the European Space Agency. So, yep.
And it's one of these things which is European space dominance. We're now having to launch on satellites on Falcon 9s. But looking over that, as I slightly die inside, I believe we were looking at one of the kind of the vibration tests there for a moment. We're looking at it inside one of the integration. Oh, thanks, Jay. Jay's going to let us see it again. But yeah, it looks like one of the various tests that satellite manufacturers undergo before actually launching on a rocket there. But yeah, very fascinating indeed. This is one of the things that we don't actually get to see that often, I don't think, because you don't just plonk your satellite on top of a rocket and then launch it and then hope for the best. You actually test these things beforehand. Most of the time to full success, some of the time not really. I don't think we have to divulge into any of those situations at the moment. Oh, there we go. The wiggling started again. I was waiting for that. Here we go.
You can see the frequency of the vibrations on the monitor there.
Our live view on the right, almost wobbling at the exact same rate. And speaking of our live view on the right, it looks like the infamous T-minus 20-minute 20-second vent is now spooling up. There it is, out of the strong back. Max, why on earth does SpaceX do this every single time they want to launch a Falcon 9?
So essentially what SpaceX is doing now is they are cleansing and thermally conditioning the lines in the transporter erector in preparation for stage 2 liquid oxygen load. And the vapor that you are seeing is the excess LOX that they are that they are flowing through the actual prop lines at the moment to get them down to the appropriate temperatures. The last thing you want to do is flow any sort of cryogenic fluid through any plumbing or material that is not at or very near the same temperature as said fluid, because you risk any flash gassing of the propellant and, heaven forbid, cracks or just straight up destruction of your supporting pipes or any sort of plumbing involved in in supporting stage 2 LOX loads. So that is what you are seeing now, and that is appropriate to the T-minus 20-minute, 20-second milestone, and this should wrap up at around T-minus 16.5 minutes when that should be our visual indicator that stage 2 liquid oxygen load is underway.
And yeah, so we can see here now that T-minus 20-minute vent going very strong. It seems like there's a little bit of wind. Is that okay, Max, there in the field? Do you think that's okay?
Oh yeah, I mean the winds here, at least at the moment, it's nothing more than a gentle breeze, gusting sometimes. It feels like a bit more than that, obviously, but nothing that would get in the way of a Falcon 9 launch this afternoon, at least as they are now. Falcon 9 is one of the more vulnerable rockets when it comes to higher winds because it is skinny compared with how tall it is. And also because Falcon 9 not only has to launch through said winds, but it also has to return through the atmosphere through said winds for a successful recovery at either LZ-1 or LZ-2 or one of the drone ships stationed out in either the Atlantic or the Pacific Oceans. So it is not the most robust vehicle when it comes to winds, but certainly the winds, at least as they are now, are posing no threat to that, and nor are the upper level winds that are on the forecast from the 45th Weather Squadron. So all is still pointing towards an on-time liftoff, hopefully in just over 17.5 minutes.
Indeed, as I do have to say, I do like it when the atmospheric conditions support a nice sizable vent, because sometimes you get range helicopter, sometimes you get these vents which just trickle out almost immediately, and it's a bit disappointing. I like it when we get a nice chunky T-minus 20-minute vent. Just frames the shot quite nicely, I do have to say. My personal preference.
I've never heard anyone call the vent chunky before.
Well, what other word would it's not. I don't think the density changes. It just. I don't know the physics behind it, but thicker. I don't know. I have entered a path of commentary. I don't really want to continue any further, so I will back out of it as quick as I can, and move on to something else. Speaking to something we were may or may not have happened on a stream a few days ago. Mr. Fluffy, Max, no singing for Pad 39A? Question mark.
Sorry, the wind picked up right as you were asking the question. What was it, Ryan?
No singing for Pad 39A? Question mark.
I sure hope not.
We'll have to wait and see. Okay, now we're getting into the real deep questions. Surf and snowboard. Could Orion theoretically launch on top of Starship? They need one hell of a payload adapter. I'll say that. I'll say that now. Could it go inside of a Starship, Alex? Potentially.
They can MacGyver anything, right? So as we're seeing, they seem to be MacGyvering already a ship static fire stand for the launch mount. So who knows? Maybe. It will come down to whether NASA will allow that or not.
Yeah, and I have to say that my initial gut instinct is probably on the not really side of that argument, but never say never, especially with SpaceX. Let's have a look through here. Sard asking, when the 500th Falcon landing, Alex? Do you have your spreadsheet handy? Very quickly, because of course, for those of you just joining us, if you are unaware, depending how you want to define it today, can be the 500th mission of Falcon 9, not technically the 500th launch or orbital launch, but what about the landings? Are they on like 450? I don't know.
More? Do you want to guess it?
483.
Less?
73.
Okay, that's the total landings that they have been able to do, counting Super Heavy. So if you remove the 3 from Super Heavy, that's 470.
470. Close enough.
Yeah, and to be fair, that's total, Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy boosters, right? So that's counting all of the different types of landings on drone ships, on back at the pad with Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy. So if you go, for example, to SpaceX's website, it may say different numbers, maybe because of that. But that's essentially where we are right now, 470 Falcon boosters.
Just over 14 minutes to go until potentially the launch. Oh, I don't want to jinx it. Of the 500th Falcon 9. Wait, it's Falcon mission, right? Not Falcon 9? I'm already getting myself confused. Or is it Falcon 9?
500th Falcon 9 mission,
okay.
You mean? Yeah.
Yes. Okay. There we go. I got myself confused then for a minute. But good to clarify. Thank you very much. Let's have a look through here. Oh, Pete saying that their Flight 9 patch has finally come through. Doing the merch plug for me. Thank you very much, Pete. And yes, agreed. Once they're gone, they're gone. We've got a few left, I think. So keep an eye out for that. Let's have a look through here as well. Oh, Keith saying in chat I should try denser for the T-minus 20-minute event. But again, I don't think it's really the... Is it actually the density? I'm throwing myself into a rabbit hole here, which I'm going to climb out of desperately because I have no idea where it's ending.
On a scale of 1 to fluffy, how fluffy was it?
It was quite fluffy. It was quite fluffy. But yeah, again, I feel like I'm entering a distinct path of commentary. I no longer want to entertain, so I'm going to talk about something else. Max, I think very briefly we can talk about the weather again because, again, I'll say it, the forecast said only a 20% chance of going, and again, I'm looking at all of our cameras here that we have. Skies are blue. I genuinely, apart from our super wide camera, I cannot see a single cloud in the sky.
Yeah, that's because all the clouds currently are behind the cameras and behind the VAB and just to the west of the Kennedy Space Center as they are now. There is some weather brewing south and west of the Kennedy Space Center at the moment, but obviously it is not posing a direct threat to the launch operations this afternoon. Obviously, SpaceX would not have gone into prop load if they thought that it might. But things are currently looking good now, despite only a forecasted 20% chance of favorable weather conditions, ironically. The main concerns being cumulus and the anvil cloud rules and the surface level electrical fields. So as far as I can tell, there are not any thunderclouds anywhere near us at the moment, although they are probably not too far away. Knowing how the weather patterns are in Florida, that can change in literally minutes. But as things are right now, there is a plenty of blue sky.
Plenty of blue sky indeed. It is, dare I say, I don't want to jinx it again, but it is pretty right now. Especially the winds. Especially the winds. Jay, I'm not sure if I can backseat produce and ask for that flag shot that we have, but it's pretty calm. It's not still. It's definitely blowing, but it's not crazy winds, you know. You can certainly see some flapping in the flag, but it's not crazy. It looks like a nice breeze you'd like to have on a summer's day.
Which is exactly what today is.
Yes. Oddly convenient. Moving on. We're just approaching 10 minutes to go now. Alex, what are some of the final things SpaceX will be working on in the countdown as we approach the pointy end of the count here?
The pointy end. Yeah, so, just 10 and a half minutes to go. One of the things that they should be doing roughly 3.5 minutes or so, that would be the start of engine chill on those Merlin engines. Also getting the last few liters, kilograms, whatever you want to use, right, of kerosene loaded on the first stage. So we saw that T-minus 20-minute vent right after that kerosene load was wrapped up on the second stage. But the first stage still has a good 3-4 minutes to go for that to wrap up. Then after that, we'll have the retraction of the Stromback, that white vertical structure next to the rocket. there's like a couple of clamp arms at the top, right? That they open, then the stromback retracts about 1.8 degrees away from the rocket, and then that'll get everything set up for the final 5 minutes of the count. That usually happens around the 5-minute mark. But yeah, just a few more minutes to go, and we'll probably get that when we get there.
Yep. So fingers crossed things keep counting. We haven't heard anything to the contrary. We're seeing the frost on Falcon 9. We're seeing frost on the first stage and the second stage. Everything looking good for the time being for a launch in just over 9 minutes time of MTG-S1 / Sentinel-4A / I don't know. It's a payload on a rocket. It's like the Russian doll of payloads on satellites, on rockets. It does make sense. I'm just not very good at explaining it, but it does make sense, I promise. I've tried to. I've done my best. I've done my best. And we are just under 9 minutes to go until the launch of this satellite with a payload, which is going to be operated by Meteosat once it gets to space, built by OHB, and launched on a Falcon 9 like all European satellites are nowadays. Slightly hurts, not going to lie. Either way, let's talk about something that doesn't hurt, and that is our, well, it's not really new anymore, but it's relatively new, newest collection on the store, shop.nasaspaceflight.com. It is, of course, our summer collection with the Hawaiian shirts made in the USA, as we like to point out. Look at these beautiful designs you can get. We've got dragons, we've got drone ships, we've got dolphins swimming around the dragons. We've got some beautiful Super Heavy Swim Club merchandise just below that as well. I mean, look, like we asked for colours and you guys said yes. Like we literally have every single colour you could ever want for all of these. We've got the shorts as well. We've got the PJ set. We've got the tags. We've got the towel as well, the beach towel. I actually saw that in use by an NSF person the other day. It's actually a useful device for NSF team members. Of course, I still lie here. Our drone ship inspired beach towel there. So if you need a beach towel, there you go. We've got the Super Heavy Swim Club towel as well. We also had an apron there if you want to do some barbecuing. You know, I know Dan likes to do some barbecuing because he did me a steak when I was in Starbase. That's very nice. Thank you, Dan. And we've got the tumbler as well. We've got everything you'll ever want. Summer collection, shop.nasaspaceflight.com. You guys know the drill. If you like the look at it, have a little look. And as we cross under 7 minutes to go now, we should be approaching the point of engine chill on the first stage. And in the meantime, Max Evans, thank you very much for joining us for the time being. We'll let you get ready, get prepped for the launch of MTG-S1 / Sentinel-4A.
It is getting to be that time, everybody, but I will see y'all after launch. So good luck, and I'll see y'all on the other side.
6.5 minutes to go. Alex, I know we've discussed it many times before, but for those of us who is joining us for the first time on YouTube and on the Popular Science channel, why does SpaceX chill down their engines? Because I thought I thought exhaust was meant to be like really, really hot.
Yeah, but the propellants that they use are cold. Kerosene, for example, is not cryogenic, but this is still loaded a little bit chilly. It's around -7 degrees Celsius, so it's still under freezing temperatures. And yeah, that liquid oxygen, it's even colder. It's -200 degrees Celsius. I think it is -330, -320 Fahrenheit. So it's still very cold, right? And so that means that when you pump it into the engine, those pumps are going to be having all of that cold propellant flowing through them. So what you do is, instead of just dumping all of that cold propellant at T-3 seconds when those engines ignite, you prepare the engines for that ahead of time. It's sort of like, not trying to jump straight into a pool when you're very, in a hot environment and they tell you, oh, you could have a heat stroke or something like that. No, don't do that, right? You tiptoe your way into the pool and everything. There's some crazy people out there that actually jump to the pool. I'm not that kind of person, but yeah, it's sort of the same, right? You try to condition those engines to the cold of that propellant by flowing a little bit of that through the pumps. And so that way, when those pumps are working at engine ignition, they don't get shocked with that cold propellant.
And we have just crossed 5 minutes to go now. We can see some wonderful venting and condensation forming around the second stage there and around the top of the strongback as both the ground support equipment and the vehicle prepare for flight in just a few minutes' time. Inside those very clean looking payload fairings is the payload for today, the MTG-S1 satellite. Alex, do we know anything about these the fairings that are going to be used on today's mission? They look pretty clean, so I'm not sure if they've been flown before.
They are brand new fairings, actually. This will be their first time. Both fairing halves are flying for the first time on this mission, so they're just going to be going into the fleet. We recently had one of these fairing halves. Yes, I think it was like the last mission where there was one of them flying for a 30-second time. So quite the contrast.
Just about 3.5 minutes to go now. We're going to be approaching the final stages of the count here very shortly, where a lot of things start to happen at the same time, but around 45-ish seconds to go. We should be getting that the launch director verifying go for launch. That's in just over 2 minutes time here. Alex, am I misremembering things? But SpaceX always puts 45 seconds on their website, on their timeline, but it never actually seems to be at 45 seconds.
It depends. I mean, it's a call out by a human, right? And so it means it can delay a little bit more. It can be a little bit early. Depends on when they actually have the data to 100% say, yes, we're going for launch, right? It happens after T-1 minute because that's when the onboard computers take control of the count and they start these automated health checks and everything. And so that's one of the things that they do afterwards where, they have a manual go there to be able to say, yes, we are going for that or not. And that's one of the things as well that they have this capability to be able to manually abort the launch until T-10 seconds. So they need to give that go before that because otherwise, it's all automated from that point onward. But yeah.
Just seeing a little bit of venting there, a little bit of cloud drifting into the distance. Across, I'll say it again, very, very blue looking skies here. So 45th Weather Squadron, I think you've got something to answer for because these conditions are not aligning at all to their forecast.
But those are probabilities. They had a 20% probability of favorable conditions and they got that 20%, right? And so it's a bit like that sometimes. It looks like now propellant load has wrapped up. We can see that return of the strongback vent as they clear out all of the lines and get ready for liftoff in under 2 minutes from now.
Doesn't look as puffy as the last one. Seems a bit thinner. I guess there's not as much stuff to vent, I guess. And there we go. Seems to have pulled back a little bit. And then
the water tank is not leaking. That is their way of measuring when it's full. Just for people that might be new to this.
It is purposefully spilling out of the top. Under a minute to go now. And we will be keeping an eye on the vehicle. We should be approaching the point where the mission control teams will have gone through their final checks. The vehicle will have taken control of the count. The launch director will be verifying go for launch very shortly, fingers crossed. And then as we approach the final few seconds, that is when the flight computer will start to command those engines, those 9 Merlin 1D engines on the first stage to ignite. Fingers crossed in about 20 seconds time. All of that final venting has wrapped up on the vehicle. We are seeing a little bit of the normal condensation we should see around this time. That strong back has retracted to the correct position for now. Fingers crossed we'll see it swing all the way back in 5 seconds time. And there's ignition, and for the 499th time, that is liftoff of a Falcon 9, lifting MTG-S1. Next stop, geostationary transfer orbit. Let's listen in for that kerosene crackle. "70 seconds into flight, that kerosene crackle ripping through the atmosphere as the sound waves from Falcon 9 make their way to our microphone. That was an absolutely gorgeous 5 p.m. launch from Kennedy Space Center as we are now passing through the vapor cone territory. We see the exhaust become a little bit more visible at these altitudes and at these pressures. And now, as the atmosphere starts to thin, as Falcon 9 starts to ascend, the plume expands to pretty much over triple the width, triple the diameter of the Falcon 9. Those mark diamonds become ever more apparent from those 9 Merlin 1D engines powered by kerosene and liquid oxygen. Second stage separation should be coming up ever so shortly here on the timeline. Some beautiful tracking shots we have from the robots. We have Wade, we have Max Evans in the field. Look at these absolutely incredible shots as Falcon 9 heads due east to that geostationary transfer orbit. We're now approaching the point where that exhaust is going to be at its widest from the booster because it's in the area of the atmosphere where the air is thinnest. And in a few seconds' time, those 9 Merlins should shut down and we'll see the separation of those two stages coming up in about 5 seconds now. And it looks like we have had separation there. I think that might be the second stage on its way now.
Yep.
And fingers crossed we see the fairings jettisoned shortly as well. Should be a couple of glistening white spots on the horizon. You see the Falcon 9 first stage. It's now extending its grid fins. It's reorienting for that entry burn, which will be coming up approximately 6 minutes into flight. In about 3 minutes' time. And the second stage on the right side, continuing to accelerate. It's now passed through 9,000 kilometers per hour, over 100 kilometers in altitude. And there go the fairings.
Yep, there we go. With the moon.
Beautiful shot. MTG-S1 with Sentinel-4A on board, now exposed to the vacuum of space for the very first time as that Merlin vacuum engine continues to burn, passing 122 kilometers in altitude now for that second stage. That nearly worked out for you, Jay. The Falcon 9 first stage, we're tracking on the left-hand side of the screen now. Its speed is starting to decrease as it reaches its apogee. That's going to be the highest point of its flight today. So even though you may see the altitude continuing to rise, it won't be doing that for too much longer. It's just carrying momentum in the direction it was traveling. It'll start to decrease momentarily as it starts to go over the top of the bridge, should we say, of the mission for today's launch. Second stage continuing on its way, approaching 12,000 kilometers per hour in speed, over 140 kilometers in altitude, And the
Wow.
speed is now picking up for the booster, so that booster is now on its way back down to Earth. It's targeting the drone ship. Just read the instructions in the Atlantic Ocean for today. Bit of a
Look,
cloudy day in the Atlantic.
look at those views. Wow.
I do have to say the weather in Florida, or at least the weather at the press site, was much better than the weather downrange.
Yeah.
Over 5 minutes into flight now. Landing burn should be coming up in about just shy of 3 minutes' time. Oh, you can see the sun through the interstage there on the booster. That is very, very pretty shot indeed. Second stage now approaching 14,000 kilometers per hour of speed, approaching 160 kilometers in altitude. The first stage now picking up the pace quite drastically through 100 kilometers now, nearly 8,000 kilometers per hour.
Getting ready for that entry burn.
Should be coming up in a few seconds' time.
Watch out for the engine overlay that they have. It's funny because they changed it recently so that it is oriented in the same orientation as the engines from this camera view. So the engines, when they ignite 1, then 3, and the 3 that ignite, it's like perpendicular to the line that you see there from the exhaust, and so it's
Physics.
right aligned with the with the point of view of this camera. Down to 1 engine.
There you go.
There
So
we
even
go.
though we could see the speed bleed off there for a moment, it would now immediately stop picking up again. Because once again, the booster is under the conditions of Earth's gravity. It has nothing to fight against it with. But that speed will now, there we go, it will start decreasing again, because as we get lower and lower, of course, the atmosphere starts getting thicker and thicker again. And that means even more drag, even more friction on the booster. And the speed starts to dramatically tear off as we go through the 20-kilometer mark in altitude, and it looks as if SpaceX has momentarily lost communication with that first stage. Fingers crossed that'll come back in a second, but for the time, but there we go, it's just come back now, peeling all the way through 2,500 kilometers per hour, 10 kilometers in altitude, approaching now the second stage.
Yep.
Burning through 22,500 kilometers an hour, back on
Look at
board
that.
with the first stage. Here we go, tearing through the clouds towards the Atlantic Ocean, and fingers crossed, in a few seconds' time, there will be a drone ship in the way, waiting for it. Look at that vapor going through the grid fins. That is an absolutely incredible shot as we pass through the clouds here.
Wow.
On board with the booster. That is incredible. Looks like we're almost flying sideways as the booster doglegs over towards the drone ship here. You can start to see the waves appearing in the blue ocean below. And we're under 1 kilometer in altitude, 1,000 kilometers per hour in speed now, rather. Here comes the engine burn, that center Merlin lighting up as we now reorient over to the drone ship. We can see it there just above the left-hand grid fin.
Zico
And
on the
we'll now
right-hand
start
side
to
as well.
We'll start to descend down to the drone ship momentarily. Fingers crossed we'll see the landing legs deploy as well. Here they go. And we're approaching the deck of Just Read the Instructions. And that is a 9th successful landing for this booster, B1085. And as Alex mentioned as well, simultaneously we had the second stage cutting off as well. There is the satellite MTG-S1 in space successfully just over 8.5 minutes after leaving Cape Canaveral. That was a very pretty launch indeed.
Yep, you can see there it's now in a low Earth parking orbit. The second stage will relight again in about 20 minutes or so to put this satellite into a geosynchronous transfer orbit, sort of an oval-shaped orbit with a perigee at low Earth orbit altitudes, but the apogee at geostationary orbit altitudes, essentially.
Look at how clean this satellite looks. I mean, it was literally built in a clean room, so I don't know what else I'd expect, but it just looks so clean. Beautiful sun on the horizon there. And as you can see by the trajectory, this is of course going to geostationary transfer orbit. So this is going due east from Florida essentially. So it's going to be heading into nighttime pretty shortly. But yeah, for the time being, when we do have those onboard views, that is a very pretty sight indeed of the Atlantic Ocean below. Just look at that. Beautiful, beautiful shots.
And if you watched our coverage of the last sort of GTO mission, geosynchronous transfer orbit, sort of short GTO, right? They use that for shortening things. When we covered the last one, that was SXM-10, it was also a lightweight satellite. This one is also lightweight. It's like 3,800 kilograms. In the case of SXM, it was not lightweight, but it was heavy enough that the orbit sort of was too short. This one is the opposite. It's like it's too lightweight that they can still reserve some propellant for after deployment, then do a deorbit burn of the second stage. So this one, just like on that mission, will see the deorbit of this second stage, which, you know, it's not something that happens often. It was for the first time done on SXM-10 for a GTO mission. Low Earth orbit missions like Starlink, they do it all the time. Whenever it works, of course. There's been a few times where it hasn't worked, but whenever it works, they successfully deorbit that second stage so that it doesn't become space junk. But GTO missions are much more energetic, and so it's rather complicated to leave some propellant off for that deorbit burn. But this one will be doing that deorbit burn and re-entering over, I think it is the Indian Ocean in this case.
Max Evans, I believe you're back. How was that from your perspective? The blue skies, fingers crossed, were sticking around.
Yeah, indeed. Thankfully, the weather held off and is still continuing to hold off, although I'm looking more due west and due south now, and there are quite a few, dare I say, unhappy clouds forming inland, but not over here currently, and the skies are still plenty of blue. Launches from LC-39A are always a treat. The sound is just that much more strong, and we are just that much closer to the pad than we are for Select 40, unless we were over on the Space Force side. But it's always a treat, and especially with it going to a geosynchronous orbit and it going straight east. It was curving off to the right from our perspective here, and hopefully y'all enjoy the audio with that as well. It was extra punchy today.
Yeah, that was quite something reaching the microphones, I do have to say. And something else that is quite something is this incredible support from Alex Pardue. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I apologize if I'm not. But that is a $200 piece of support there, which is absolutely mind-boggling. They say, love you all. I watch every launch with you. Thank you so much for the support, first of all, because, yeah, I don't even know what to say to that, because that is quite something. And we genuinely could not do our live coverage without the support that you guys give us. So we are going to be eternally grateful for everything everybody does to help us, especially the big ones like this, which I genuinely can't remember the last time I saw something like this on a live stream. So thank you so much for the support, Alex. It is greatly appreciated. And yeah, I can assure you that all of the support we've been getting is going to very good use. We have so many people, even though it might be rained out at Starbase right now, we have so many people out there working on infrastructure upgrades, etc., to try and bring you guys the best coverage possible. People working really hard, literally across the world, to bring you the best content possible. So yeah, thank you so much for the support. It is so greatly appreciated. Excuse me. Yeah, I genuinely cannot thank you enough. It might not be that obvious with my accent, but trust me, Jack does a much better job at this than I do. But genuinely, thank you very much for the support. It is so greatly appreciated, and we couldn't do it without you. We have also had some questions coming in during the launch, and we have had, I'll run through these very quickly. But we have also had a little bit more support in here as well. So thank you very much to Chris and Mr. Fluffy as well. Was Mr. Fluffy referencing the vent being fluffy? I don't know.
I'm sure they are
confused by that one.
Referred to that, yeah.
Yeah. But thank you very much nonetheless. It's greatly appreciated. So yeah, thank you very much. we'll continue discussing the mission here for a little bit. We're just over, or approaching 15 minutes rather into flight. These actual payload itself, MTG-S1, will be deploying about 20 minutes time. So we'll have some more discussion points to hit before then. Ammo Wound is asking if it will go from the geostationary transfer orbit to a normal geosynchronous orbit. And Alex, my understanding is that Falcon 9 has done its job for the moment, or until it deploys it. It's gotten it into that really quite eccentric orbit, and then from there, if I'm not mistaken, the satellite will then take over circularizing that orbit.
Yeah, well, it's still not in that place, right? It's still in low Earth orbit. It will take quite a while for that satellite to go straight into geostationary orbit from here. But yeah, Falcon 9 still has one more burn, and when it separates, it's going to be in this sort of elongated, oval-shaped orbit. And then the satellite will be both circularized in the orbit, but also, as you can see there, it has some inclination, whereas geostationary orbits are around the equator, so it will also need to cancel the inclination. And so those two things will probably be done in parallel, and it'll probably take a while, because I think this one has also electric propulsion, and usually those take a little while to get out there, but it's a lot more efficient. So that's how you get in return. Instead of having like a 6 metric ton payload, or not payload, satellite, because you have to carry like 3,000 kilograms of hydrazine, maybe you carry only 400 kilograms of xenon or something like that, and that's a lot more weight efficient. You can launch it on a tinier rocket like Falcon 9 and not Falcon Heavy or something like that.
So yeah, that second engine burn, that second engine burn, there we go. That should ignite at 26 minutes and 54 seconds into flight, so that's literally in about 10 minutes time, and then that should cut off again at 28 minutes into flight exactly. So that'll be a 1 minute and 6 second burn. At least that's what SpaceX has published in the timeline. And then it'll be deploying shortly after that. And I have been told we have some replays ready, so let's take a look at this launch from all of the angles we had deployed at the Kennedy Space Center.
And I should correct myself, it does not have electric propulsion, so it's good old hydrazine.
From one of our fleet cams, right, located at a Rusty Seafood and Oyster Bar at Port Canaveral, so if you're ever in need of something to eat at Port Canaveral, you know where to go. Thank you very much to them for allowing us to host our fleet cams there. We can see one booster in the foreground, another one flying in the background as B-1085 took off from Launch Complex 39A. Oh, is there actually there's another booster in the foreground? I think there's one actually laying down in front of the tents there, in front of the fleet cams. So yeah, it's Sleepy Booster. Going to be sent back to Hangar X for some refurb.
Yeah, that's B-1080 after its 20th mission, and then the one vertical is B-1092. And the one flying, it's B-1085.
I can barely see it, I'll be honest, in my preview here. It's so wide, but it's just ever so slightly reaching above the big crane, sort of left middle there. Max was correct with that there were more clouds behind his cameras, but again, I can't see that many. Pretty blue skies.
Pretty blue, and it's also a lot more difficult to pick up a launch from fleet cam, especially from this distance and being this wide of a composition, because there is not a dark sky to contrast against it. So it is a bright blue sky in return, but a daytime launch nowadays with how many nighttime launches we have now is always a welcome change.
A few people out on the press site lawn. I wouldn't say this is exactly Artemis 1 levels of media deployment, but it's nice to see a few people rolling out nonetheless.
Yeah, with this being a customer mission, I'm sure those are some people who have a hand in the mission, and also I'm sure some SpaceX personnel as well. It's always like we have basically a front row seat here to both 39A and 39B, so it's always a great spot to watch.
Oh, of course, we've got our super zoomed in view here of the base of the pad. You can see that GSE taking an absolute blast from those 9 Merlin engines as Falcon 9 lifts off, and the water deluge system doing its job, keeping it all nice and protected. But nonetheless, it's going to get a little toasty. And we have this special shot. I mean, this is just perfectly framed, Max. This is beautiful. Classic Falcon 9 flag shot here, with the wind 100% complying with that shot. But yeah,
the wind was
quite something.
The wind was a paid actor today.
Yes, as the kids say. I'm going to be, once we get to the end here, Jay, I'm going to be naughty and ask if you can throw that flag shot back up, because that was quite something. But yeah, I mean, even just the lighting conditions today, these are the launches that I absolutely adore. It's just absolutely stunning. Our microphone certainly picked up some very nice audio today. Because not only was it a very pretty launch, but also a very nice sounding. Well, it was loud, but noisy kind of infers it was bad. It wasn't bad, it was nice. What's the word for sound that's nice, that's like pretty, but for sound?
There's a few. I think intense. There's, oh boy, intense, strong, punchy, audio-tastic.
Chris B has suggested audio-tastic. Okay, maybe we can work on that one. I think we'll send that one to the writers' room and see what they come back with. I mean, this is just beautiful launch conditions here as the replay is approaching the point of main engine cutoff and when those stages separate. It's not exactly the darker skies which allow us to really see the plume and get that jellyfish effect like we do after sunset, but nonetheless, it's still pretty nice to see the vehicle being lit up by the sun against the blue Floridian sky. We've got a little bit of a side angle as well. I believe this is from one of our robots down by the port. Gauge tracking remotely. And unlike the Starlink launches, this you can tell by the plume direction and by the vehicle direction. This is pretty straight down the middle because there isn't a dogleg going on. It's going due east. It's going to that geostationary transfer orbit, which the second stage still needs to do its second burn of the mission in about 5-ish minutes time in order to fully get into that eccentric orbit. Right now it's in a low Earth orbit, parking orbit, but yeah, you can see from the side-on view there from one of our Cape robot cams, that is a pretty straight down the middle launch there for Falcon 9. Something we always like to see. And there's that main engine cut off again from that side-on view. Somebody else we also had down in the Cape was Wade, Dr. WD40 on Twitch, getting this fantastic view, as always, from his little mobile remote live streaming unit system, I suppose. But yeah, I'm always incredibly surprised by just how far he can zoom in with his camera, because it packs a punch, I think they say. But yeah, just look at this, especially as it gets higher in the atmosphere and the sun just beats down on it ever brighter. It's just, you know, stands out so well against the sky in the background. I'm gonna be naughty because I know I'm not supposed to do this, but I'm gonna ask Jay if once we finish watching this one, if we can watch the flag shot again, because I want to see the flag shot again.
Ironic for you to say that.
But it was a very pretty shot, you know? It was very pretty, so I just want to see it again. Is it too much to ask for?
Okay.
Especially in early July, maybe.
Yeah. Max, you were 3 days early on the flag shot. You were 3 days early.
Well, there isn't anything launching on the 4th, and this is the best I could do, so.
Second stage over Africa now. Well, technically it's back over the Atlantic Ocean for a brief moment, but we are approaching, of course, that second engine start in about a minute's time.
You can in fact see there that kink in the orbit from
Yeah.
that burn that it's about to happen. It's going to change both the altitude and also a little bit of the inclination. You can see that sort of also changes inclination a little bit as well.
Oh, I want to see another flag. Okay, never mind. Let's keep an eye on the second stage for the time being, because in about 50 seconds' time, that second stage Merlin vacuum engine is going to be igniting for its second time on today's mission. And Alex, this is all for that crucial orbit raising maneuver, because as SpaceX very handily now showing on their graphics package, we'll have that orbit raising maneuver and a bit of frost.
Yeah, just like they were, chilling down the engines ahead of liftoff, they're doing the same now as well with the MVAC engine, because it's going to be igniting and they need to condition that, the whole, tippy toe into into the pool sort of analogy that I made. Same thing here. So it should be a few seconds. It usually depends a little bit on real-time telemetry and conditions from the usual timeline. So, oh, there we go. You can see the G's there on the bottom left, 4.2. And back engine getting bright.
Am I misremembering, or have they updated their graphic? Because before it was just one big circle in the bottom corner, but now it looks like they're doing a little circle with a gradient around it. That's quite neat. You can see the G-force is changing as well, going through 4.4, the force of gravity here for the satellite. So that testing we're seeing earlier, very much needed for a satellite. This is no easy feat going through a space launch here. Now approaching 5G of acceleration. Look at that.
Yeah, some people were mentioning before, oh, it's vibrating, and it's like, yeah, that's why they put it on that table, vibrating the satellite.
That's the
because
point.
the rocket vibrates. Exactly. Should be very close now to that shutdown. It was just going to be about a minute burn, so it's not a
shutting down in about
huge
5
long
seconds.
burn. Yeah, you see that they're trying to keep those G's under 5 so that the satellite doesn't get too stressed. Throttling down that engine and shutdown. Look at that.
Oh, it
and
does,
now the video.
does the throttle as well. That's very neat. Hats off. But there you go. That looks like a successful orbital raising maneuver, and we've got the moon in the background as well, if I'm not mistaken. So very, very pretty shot indeed there from the second stage. That Merlin vacuum engine bell is going to be glowing orange, and you can actually see there in the orbit diagram from SpaceX the kink in the orbit. So its inclination has changed ever so slightly, and its altitude, of course, has changed as well.
I always find it amusing that the speed to get into GTO is sort of like the same as the altitude for geostationary. It's sort of like 36,000, but instead of kilometers, it's kilometers per hour.
Satellite. I do appreciate that they have the little light on the second stage pointing up at the satellite, because as we could see, the satellite looking healthy, and over 350 kilometers in altitude now. We're about 29 minutes into flight. Of course, the deployment of MTG-S1 is coming up 35 minutes into flight, so we are 5 minutes away, approximately, just over, from that deployment there of the satellite. I wonder what we could be doing, Jake Egan, for the next 5 minutes. He's left the audio on as well.
There you go.
I hope he's looping it.
You got your
Fucked up
flag
there.
shot.
Oh, he is. He is.
Yeah.
You know, if you fade it, Max, if you take this and fade it correctly, you could do like, I'm sure that GIF would go hard on Twitter.
You know, Ryan, I might do that.
There you go. You can have that one for free.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll send you an invoice later.
Checks in the mail. Very pretty shot. Very patriotic shot. I'll let you have it considering the holiday that's coming up.
The
You can get
American
away with it this
broomstick.
time.
Yeah, the American broomstick. There we go.
Jake Egan in the back channel saying one more time. I mean, we've still got 5 minutes to fill, so we can watch it some more if you want. But either way,
He said one more time and then took it away. How rude.
yeah. I mean, who does that? Anyways, oh, thanks, Jay. Thanks, Jay. One more time, actually. One more. Here it comes. There we go.
Lovely.
Okay, thanks, Jay. You can take it away now. We've seen the flag shot enough. That's okay. There we go.
That is not a
one more button,
replay.
Jay. One more button, Jay. One more button. There we go. Okay, all buttons pressed. We have now got the live view from the second stage on the left. Producing live 24/7, ladies and gentlemen.
This is
Elsie
this is what
39A
happens
on the right.
when you get a producer on commentary.
And the strongback, Alex, already retracted. SpaceX already in their safing procedure for the launch pad as they work to progress towards their next launch from 39A.
Yeah, most likely in a week's time. That's usually what they do when there's no crew missions around and waiting for the ISS to get their stuff together, right? That's what they tend to do. It's sort of like a week or so, 7-8 days turnaround. This was a little bit shorter than that. Actually, it was closer to 6 days or so, but still quite a really good turnaround there as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just over 32 minutes into flight now. 3-ish minutes to go until the payload will deploy. For those of you just joining us, again, the satellite is MTG-S1. That's going to be operated by Meteosat, manufactured by OHB, and then Sentinel-4A is a European instrument hosted on board that satellite. Fingers crossed that makes sense. I've been trying to get my head around it for the last hour and a half.
MTG-S1 standing for Meteosat Third Generation Sounder 1 satellite. And the Sentinel-4 being the payload, one of the payloads.
I understand the whole words thing, but it just would make a little bit more sense, in my opinion, if it was M3G, considering it's third. I digress.
Yeah.
We'll just wait for payload deployment, and fingers crossed
I'm
it will go
sure.
smoothly.
I'm sure, because we're both Europeans, Max isn't, but I'm European, and I remember since I was a kid, on like the weather forecast and everything on TV after the news and everything, they usually called out the Meteosat satellites on TV. They used to say that, and it's been in operation for a few decades already. So this is the next generation, the third generation Meteosat satellite with lots of improvements, lots of new different methods of gathering data about the planet. And so that's one of the neat things that we're gonna be able to get lots of information about these heat waves that are hitting us lately. So it's been not nice summer so far.
Just to confirm, that flag on that shot
Still
on the
there.
right of the flag is still there, but that's a live shot. It's not another replay, so don't worry. It's a live shot of the flag, of the American flag flying next to the European satellite being launched. I suppose we had to borrow your rocket, Max, for 5 minutes. I do apologise. You can have it back at the end of the day.
Oh, I appreciate it, Ryan. Thank you. Feel free. This one's on me.
Thanks. 1 minute to go until the deployment of MTG-S1. Nearly 1,000 kilometers in altitude now, and that line just goes straight to the right. There's such an eccentric orbit that the vehicle is now in. So fingers crossed everything goes smoothly. There we go, 1,000 kilometers in altitude, nearly 34,000 kilometers per hour in velocity. Of course, because of orbital physics and things like that, the speed will actually be reducing because it's kind of, if you imagine a ball that's been thrown into the air, it'll start slowing down until it starts falling back to Earth. That's kind of what's happening right now, except fingers crossed it won't fall back to Earth. Kind of. I'm sure Alex would have a much more detailed explanation, but unfortunately we don't have time for that because payload deploy is coming up just about now. There we go. Nearly got it. Nearly got it.
Payload deploy confirmed.
Super
Yes, super indeed. Thank you very much. Beautiful deployment shot there as it slowly drifts away from the Falcon 9 second stage. Got a little bit of I can't tell if the rotation is on the second stage or on the satellite because of the space is dark and all. But there you go. Slowly drifting away into the distance, out of sight. And it looks like SpaceX once again venting from the strongback at 39A. Alex, very very briefly, it's not T-minus 20 minutes anymore. What are they doing?
It's a T plus 36 minute. No, I'm joking. But yeah, what they're doing is essentially just venting out all of the remaining fluids and everything. Some people asking also like what's going to happen now with the second stage after this deployment. Well, in a normal or any other sort of situation, we will say, well, it's GTO, so it's not going to deorbit, blah, 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 But this one is one of all of these exceptions that they're doing now where they are reserving some more propellant and they are going to be able to deorbit that second stage after this mission. So it's going to actually be deorbiting over the Indian Ocean probably a few hours from now. So, yeah. But yeah, that venting is completely normal.
And with that, Alex, I'm going to thank you for being on today's stream of MTG-S1 /Sentinel-4A. Thank you very much for joining us, Alex.
It's been a pleasure, and I'll see you all on the next one. Literally the next one, because I'm going to be on the Starlink launch later today. So, I guess tomorrow morning for me, because it's very early in the morning. But yeah.
You will actually be on the 500th launch of Falcon 9. Fingers crossed.
Indeed. Hopefully, yeah. We'll see.
Someone else who will be on the 500th launch of Falcon 9, fingers crossed. Max Evans, out in the field. Thank you very much for providing your fielding services today.
Fielding services. That's a new one. But pleasure as always, everyone. Thank you very much for coming to hang out. And we will hopefully see you guys again in just a few hours for I guess it's a bit of a teaser, a record-breaking Starlink mission.
You'll want to stick around for that one now, won't you? Also in the field, Wade rolled out with his fielding services. We also had a Gage operating one of our robot cameras remotely. Also, very briefly, I want to give a quick shout out to everyone who's been supporting the stream. So IH Riviera, we had John, we had Judith, we had D in Cape Town. I don't think our D is in Cape Town, but either way, thank you guys so much for the support. We couldn't do it without you. In the background, pushing the buttons, Jake Keegan, thank you very much for supporting today's stream. And with that, my name's been Ryan Caton. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
And here we go.
We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be nominal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, planet.
Water towers, fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside FD off. Second FD off. It's orange!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
Put that in the big bag, Tingle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. Keep that. We don't need any more of these.